Excellent. Hi, Amy. So good to have you here today. I'm so excited to share your story. So one of the things I find really special about your story is that you took the school yoga program last summer and you implemented the right way. And I really would love to share this story to inspire those people who are sort of like, oh, how do I get started? How do I get going? So I'd love to hear from you, first of all, sort of the context, your background, and sort of, who are you? What are you teaching? And what made you sign up for the school yoga program last summer?
Sure. So I have about 25 years in the counseling field. 16 of those years have been in school counseling. The last 14 years, I've been an elementary school counselor. And over the course of really all of those years, but especially being in an elementary school, I have seen our students' needs really increase. There have been just a lot of different needs with our population. So grandparents raising their grandchildren, foster kids, all of those kind of things. And the students have really had some really anxious behaviors. And then, you throw in COVID and there have just been even more needs that we were able to meet in a small school. So I started looking into mindfulness and yoga and everything for actually one of my own children, because he struggled during the pandemic. And I got into it and like, I'm not getting out of it. It was finally, after all of these years, it was that like aha moment that this is what my students need, my children need, and this is what I need to do for my children and for my students. So in sort of going through everything and finding really great resources, I stumbled upon you and started to look into it, and I thought, again, this is what I need to do in my school. So signed up for it, and to this day, and I know I've told you before, Giselle, it was one of the best decisions I've made personally and professionally.
Oh, that's awesome. Amazing. So now when you say you just sort of discovered yoga mindfulness during COVID, especially, right, with your son, what is some of those ahas? Like, can you give us an example of sort of what happened that sort of really sparked it in you, that you said you knew this was what you wanted to do?
Sure. So having a counseling background, I used everything I could, like, I'll just talk about my own child, to sort of make him feel like he was safe. And kind of getting him to recognize that everything he really needs to feel calm and to calm himself down it's inside of him. He possesses it. It's just a matter of digging down deep and finding it. So we did some things before bed at night, like some of the things counseling wise, as a mom and then as a counselor, everything. And then we started to take some deep breaths, and then we started journaling, and then we added a little bit of stretching. And then it was really just his feedback, like this really helps. And then him realizing that he can access all of those skills whenever he needed it, whether it was at home, online, or going back to school, or really, anywhere. He plays sports. So we talk about, positive self-talk and affirmations, and, and it all just kind of, I started to see it working. And not that I never knew it didn't exist. I just kind of thought, and not that it really takes a whole lot of time or anything. I just thought, is this everything in education? And I don't mean to be ignorant when I say this, like, we have a lot of buzzwords in education. And I thought, okay, I need to put this into practice to see it. And what are the results going to be? And I put it into practice, and the results spoke for themselves, like, with both of my children. And then the same thing that when I started to implement it at school, and really the students coming to me and saying, Mrs. Ketner, I tried your shoulder breath to, when you did mindfulness Monday on the announcements, I tried that, and that's my favorite breath now. Like, they were giving me feedback, and I wasn't even seeking them out. They were coming to me and saying, I tried what you said on Monday. And I thought, whoa, it works. It does.
Right. Yes. Let's talk more about that. So you took the program, and then from there, you implemented it right away. So you came from this passion of, you saw the difference in your son and difference in yourself, right? And that was probably what pushed you forward, I imagine, right?
Right.
So talk to us about after you took the course, how did you get from taking the course to putting it into action? What was that like?
Well, I will say when I started looking into everything, then I just went nuts. Like I bought everything I saw, like, oh, I need to have all of these things. And then it got to a point where I looked at all these things and then I thought, okay, now I got a ton of resources, but now how do I implement all of this? So what I really liked about the school yoga bootcamp was how you broke everything down, step by step, that I didn't feel so overwhelmed. Like this is my step one and then step two. So I was able to take all that information. And then after yoga bootcamp was over, I sat down and I looked at step one and I thought, okay, what is my why? And how am I going to meet this with my students in a school? Because yes, I saw results with my son and my daughter, but now I'm talking about a school of 400 students and
Right.
educators that, will be on board and maybe some that won't be, and administrators, like, how do I handle all of that? So I wrote a plan, and my first goal was just to talk to my principal and pitch it to him and say, hey, what do you think? Like, this is what I'm thinking. And my principal has been super supportive through everything that I have done. So he said, yeah, if it's going to help our students, of course, do what you need to do. So I got the okay from him, wanted to make sure that it was okay with all of the other admins in our district, like our superintendent. And then from there, I pitched it to some teachers, like, this is what I'm thinking about. What do you think? They thought it was great too. The biggest thing, and I think we would have seen it regardless because of the population we're dealing with, but when COVID hit and now seeing the aftermath of everything, still their whole thing was whatever will help the students, Amy, whatever you think. And then pitched it to parents and they said the same thing. So I thought, okay, I got the green light. I'm going to keep going. So then I had to think, okay, how will I deliver this to 400 students? I want everybody to be able to access it and hear it. Because I had to think, am I going to teach it as a school counselor? I teach what's called guidance classes. Like I'm in the specials rotation. Well, I'm out now, but so not everyone comes to specials sometimes, and all of those sort of obstacles. So then I decided I'm going to do the mindfulness morning announcements. And that really, I took what Cassandra had and sort of looked at all of everything that she had, and I helped guide me. That was a great guide for me. So I thought, okay, how am I going to do this? So I broke it down for me, and this is what I did. I broke it down into four different things I wanted to touch on the announcements. I wanted to do breath work, gratitude, some mindfulness activities that they could do in the classroom, and then mindful movements. Doing it on the morning announcements, I knew it had to sort of be brief but powerful. And I also had to allow for the students who wouldn't want to be a part of it. So I had to kind of tackle all of that. And then I came up with an outline of every single day. So I did every Monday of the entire school year. I made an announcement following my 4 categories, and I just kept rotating that. So after those 4 were done, then the next 4, and all of those announcements followed that. So I had it all for the school year. Then during the week of in-service, I presented it all to the teachers, who again were super supportive of it. The announcements were short, but I also had, I put everything on our Google Drive so the teachers could bring that up on a Monday morning, follow along, because then every announcement had a little, maybe one of your posters or a little video clip or something like that. I would send out a reminder email on Sunday night, like tomorrow's, Mindfulness Monday. And I would even include again the announcement on it in case the teacher didn't want to go to the Google Drive. And that's basically what I did. I talked about it on the very first Monday of when we were in school, so all the students could hear it, and then start it that day, and then every single Monday after that. And it was great. Like, it was one of the best things I've done in my career, I'll be honest with you.
So how did you manage the different age groups as well? So the teachers have information. Did you get any feedback for the kindies to the 5th grade? Did some of the older ones get it or not get it, or vice versa?
Well, I think what was really great was so many teachers were on board that if I had a mindful movement, I had like a poster of yours that when they would, bring up that announcement, they would just click on it and that would bring up the image. But the teacher would always be there too, then modeling it as well.
Right.
So, and it worked K-4. I had to, and I touched base with the kindergarten teachers because sometimes I would say, put your left hand on your right knee. Well, kindergarten,
Right.
even sometimes fourth graders, that's what's my left, what's my right, that kind of
Right.
stuff. But some teachers would then model it, or I would just say, take one hand and put it on a knee. I had to kind of play with it at the beginning of it. But then after that, I think everybody just got kind of used to doing it. And the really nice thing, one of the greatest feedback that I got from some teachers was they use that as their springboard for their morning meetings, or for, the third grade teachers started journaling right after it. Like it just led into all of these other things that I didn't even like think about or anticipate. I didn't think, it's one of those things I didn't think it was going to continue, but the ripple effect just kept going. And that was amazing.
And for you too, it had some ripple effects. So you started with that Monday morning announcements, but then you also started to do other things, didn't you, in the school?
I did. Yeah. I started a yoga recess club with my kindergarten friends. So it was a voluntary program. I would send a note home to the parents. The parents, again, were super supportive. So students would come with me for recess and we would do yoga games, dancing, crafts, that kind of stuff. And then that led into me starting to actually then teach yoga at a local rec center, and it's in the same town my school district is in. So a lot of my students in class were the students I had in school, and parents said, oh my gosh, they were so excited when they came home. They wanted to do yoga with Mrs. Ketner. So that's been great because that's what I've done all summer. Then I've just been going around to different locations, and now I'm branching out a little bit more. I see my students, but I'm seeing students from other, local school districts.
That's amazing. Now, it just sounds so dreamy, your story, right? It just
I
sounds like
know.
green light, green light, green light. Did you
Right.
did you hit some obstacles along the way that you had to sort of overcome, or any sticky situations at all?
I think the obstacles of just, being in a school setting and being mindful of the time and being mindful of, there are some teachers that just aren't going to buy into it. They're not going to maybe put the announcement up on the board or the picture or something like that. And, I know what happened. I'm not, naive that every single teacher did it, and that's okay. That's their right. But I know as the guidance teacher at that time, I made sure that I incorporated it into my guidance class. So every time my students K-4 came into guidance, we did some deep breathing. Maybe we played a mindfulness game like I Spy or something like that. I just tried to make sure that I was consistent with it. And then I don't even think there was any, I'm trying to think, Giselle, and I didn't have any negative feedback from parents.
Right.
It was nice that, when I started teaching at the rec center, the students who came were the ones that were super excited about it. And that was the feedback I got from the parents, was this is exactly what she needed. Some of my students, and this is like reporting back from the parents, would say, she doesn't do sports, she's not in this, but this is what she needed, and I thought, okay, this is great. Like I'm also hitting that other group that maybe doesn't feel like they have a group, or they're not doing those type of extracurricular activities or something. This became their thing.
Right. And I'm sure that their experience with you probably has ripple effects to their friends and family as well, right? So
yeah, it's funny you say that, because the one thing I just remembered, so in kindergarten, towards the end of the school year, the kindergarten students are allowed to teach a lesson to their class, and they all pick something different, whatever they're interested in. If it's race cars, they're teaching about race cars. It's really, it's be a teacher. So they're the teacher for the day. And one of my little friends who was in my recess club, who came to the rec center, her lesson to her class was yoga, and she do a little lesson plan, and the teacher brought her down to me with the lesson plan.
Oh my goodness.
And I know, and it was just one of those moments that I'm standing there, and I was standing with a really good friend of mine who is a Title I teacher. And she looked at me and was like, Amy, oh my gosh, like, this is from you. Like she, after they left, like she would have never probably taught this lesson if it wasn't for you. And, you know, some of those moments I was just kind of like, wow, like it's working. Like it's
Right.
it's working.
Right. Yeah. And that's great. So looking back now, right, you've done this for a year. Could you say, can you think of a story, for example, of maybe that you could see also the impact of the work?
Yeah. So doing the mindfulness Monday announcements, and then what I was incorporating into guidance classes, and then also a lot of teachers reinforcing some of those things too. If they saw some, you know, kids getting anxious in the classroom, they would, you know, stop and take a deep breath. But one of the breaths I taught was the figure 8 breath. And that was on the announcements, and we did it in class. And towards the end of the school year, it was a hot summer day, and I think we maybe had a week or so left. So, you know, it's that time of the year where kids are kind of all over the place, off the wall. And they took one grade, took their students out to the playground, and unfortunately one of our students was seriously injured that required an ambulance on site. And it was traumatic. It was traumatic for the students, for the teacher, for all of us, because it was a real serious injury. So we got all of the students into one classroom, and my principal said, Amy, I need you to go and talk to them. Like, they're upset, they're crying, they're beside themselves. And I said, sure, absolutely. So I went in, and, you know, it's one of those things when you go in as an adult and as a school counselor and as a mom too, to see all these eyes looking up at you, just kind of like a complete mess, you know, like, help me. And I said, all right, friends, listen, we're going to take a couple deep breaths. I said, you know what, let's do our figure 8 breath. And in that second, I saw all their hands go up, and we all just started doing it. But like, I didn't even need to lead them. They started doing it it was, to this day, I like, that's one of those memories I will have forever, because I knew then that they got it. And I also knew that they are realizing that they possess what they need inside of them. They don't need a fidget. They don't need anything that, you know, is not readily available. They have what they need inside of them. So they were able to draw that out and use it in a time of crisis, in a time of, you know, am I going to be okay, Mrs. Ketner? How do I, and we all started doing it. And in that second, I could see like some of that stuff just melt away, and they started to relax. And it was just a profound moment that, like, I'll never forget.
Goodness.
I know.
I know. And what I'm hearing from your stories too, that it sounds like the most powerful activity, because, you know, yoga encompasses, we've got meditation, karma yoga, mindfulness, yoga postures, you know, there's lots of under the umbrella of yoga, but it feels like the thing that has been most powerful so far is breathing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
So as simple as that. You know, it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to have a lot of money. You know, you don't have to have a lot of time. It's all these obstacles that we hear, right? And teachers don't want to add one more thing. They don't want to buy anything more. They don't want to learn anything more. But if we could help people understand that it can be as simple as taking a deep breath.
Right. And one of the other things I did this last school year was I had a Breath of the Month club for teachers. And the last Monday of every month, teachers who signed up just came to my classroom, and I would introduce a breath to them. We would talk about it, talk about the benefits, you know, doing it with their students. And I would have a handout, usually one of your posters, and they would take it back to the classroom, and they would work on that breath for a month, because I didn't want to overwhelm the students, but I wanted them to have a whole toolbox of their own that they can always just pull that out when they need it. And you're right. Like, one of the biggest things was just really pausing and taking a breath. And like I said before, and I'm not knocking fidgets or anything, but I know I see many students who are like, well, I didn't have my fidget. And, you know, and now they're sort of moving away from that. I need that fidget. I need something else to, like, oh no, I can do it. I can take a couple of deep breaths, you know, and that's been great, even for my own kids too, because, you know, we are a sports family. We do play sports, and, you know, some days are tough, and we've definitely incorporated into, let's just take a deep breath before we get in the batter's box, let's just take a deep breath before going out in the field, and hearing my kids, and my kids are 11 and 14, and they're saying it. I'm like, it even works with older kids.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a gift, because I've been thinking a lot lately working with my daughter that she's very externally focused, even more so now after the last couple of years, but it's always, like you said, the fidget, or it's, screen helps calm me down, or, you need to sit next to me because, I'm co-regulating with her. Right. So it's always external. I'm really trying so hard. And I do know as a mom, it'll probably be someone like yourself, a school counselor, or someone, or her OT, or someone else, another adult in her life that adores her, that will help her realize this for herself. So even though I'm like this suppressed mom, like, dying for her to have that light bulb moment, but it will come. But that's what I love about the breath, is like you said, it comes from inside. There's nothing more that we need. It's as simple as that. I mean, that's so fascinating about COVID too, right? That it is a respiratory. So it's reminding us that Mother Nature has taken a deep breath too, right? With airplanes in the sky and all, now the less cars on the road and all these things, that it's all around the breath.
Right.
It's fascinating to me that we're coming back to the simplicity of life.
Right. That's a great way to put it. Yep. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great. And so now looking forward, what do you think you're going to create next year?
Well, I'm super excited. And I don't know if if anyone will see this and they'll relate, but being a school counselor for 16 years, I've always been in the specials rotation. And I love that because I see every student, every grade, but with such an increase in our data, in our looking at our behaviors, our internal and external, and looking at some of our office write-ups and collecting all of the data and looking at it this summer, we knew we needed to do more. I needed to do more as a school counselor. We needed to do more as a school to meet the needs of our students. So with like the teachers came up with the schedule that I was able to be pulled out of the specials rotation, which, I won't get to see all the students, but I'm around the school all the time. So I'm excited because now I'll be working, more small groups, more one-on-one. I plan to continue having the recess yoga club and now being able to do more grades. I'm excited. This is a new opportunity for me. And with having all this behind me now, I just feel like I can just keep going and growing this even more. So
love it.
I know. I'm excited.
So exciting. So awesome. I'm so grateful to watch your journey and see how it unfolds. And we'll definitely be keeping in touch alongside you as this next year unfolds. Thank you so much for taking the time, Amy. I so appreciate it. And your stories always bring a tear to my eye, and I'm just so incredibly inspired. Thank you so much, my dear.
Well, thank you for everything. I wouldn't have been doing this if it wasn't for you and Cassandra. So I'm just grateful that our paths have crossed, and I hope they continue to just do it, because I don't know where I'd be without the two of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my dear. Take good care.
Take care. Bye-bye.